Well, hello, my friends. I'm Dennis Prager. It is great to be with you. So, some headlines here: 6 to 10,000. Is it the Atlantic? 6 to 10,000 churches closed. What is the figure for the time value of that in the last what? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to, and I'm not going to guess. But it doesn't matter. The point is, huh? No, you're kidding. I don't.
Many of our nation's churches can no longer afford to maintain their structure.
Yeah, many cannot afford to maintain their structure.
10,000 churches die each year in America.
6 to 10,000 churches a year?
Yeah, that's what it says.
You mean in 10 years, 60,000 to 100,000 churches will close?
100 to 200 a week.
100 to 200 a week? I could.
Storefront.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, but it's sad. It's just sad. So I posed the question in hour one. I want you to ask secular friends or relatives, do you think it is good or bad for America that 6 to 10,000 churches a year close? That's it. You're not even arguing. This is one of those clarifying questions. Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here. So those of you in Colorado could be proud of your state. You can now put X. You have no sex. You're neither male nor female on your license plate, on your driver's license. There is no issue where it is more obvious that there is a nihilistic essence to leftism as the transgender issue. Not about loving the individual. That is a non-issue. Of course you love the individual. But about making war on the notion that there are two sexes. And raising kids. Did you see the latest one with, Celine Dion? Did you see that? You saw it? You both saw it? Where she, what is this? She promoting a gender neutral baby clothes. Because get this, we don't want to determine for them until they're older what sex they are. Celine Dion? Yeah, that's right. Do you know it was painful. The role fools like this woman play in destroying what is good is. Do you know how unfair it is to a child not to celebrate their sex? Do you understand what you're depriving them of? Do you understand what the left has done to kids? They don't celebrate being an American. They don't celebrate being a Christian or a Jew or whatever it might be. And they don't celebrate now even being a male or a female.
It's okay. I'm Celine Dion.
Yeah. There's nothing, they're mean. The left is the combination of arrogance, stupidity, and meanness is unprecedented in American history. It's
our children.
It's a triple header.
They are not really our children.
As we are all just links in a never-ending chain that is life.
God, is that
For
deep?
us,
Oh, my
they
God.
are everything.
I take it back.
But in reality,
she's not stupid.
We are only a fraction of their universe.
Is that true? Is she saying this?
We miss the past.
Does she, is she mean this?
Tomorrow.
All right,
We may
that's fine.
thrust them
I'll tell you,
forward into the
if you're breathy enough, then people take nonsense seriously. I should talk like that. I'm going to really be taken seriously. Yes, I'm Dennis Prager. I have common sense. We'll let kids decide what sex they are later. We don't want to impose it upon them. It's child abuse. It's pure, undiluted child abuse. Celine Dion, congratulations. You are spreading child abuse. Very few people can say that they have done as much damage as she. It's rare. Because I've realized this was one of the realizations of the second half of my life. Fools do more damage than bad people. I did not know that for the... I would say I've really only come to realize it maybe in the last 10 years. Fools are the most dangerous. There are very few bad people. All right? Let's be honest. Very few people wake up and think, gee, how can I hurt people today? Fools take up the slack. That's what it is. And we live in the age of fools. Fools teach your children at college. Fools teach your children even before college. And yes, I'll say it again, as I always say, there are some wonderful teachers. But right now, there is indoctrination by fools. That's what happens, especially at college. But it doesn't begin in college in many cases. I know a man whose daughter was alienated from him because she was so indoctrinated in one of these $50,000 prep schools because he's a conservative. She basically would come home and think her father is a bad human being because of the crap that she was taught for $50,000 a year. She should have been homeschooled or gone to. She should have studied the 4 years. I'm telling you, she should have in Honduras. That would be, a reverse migration. She should have gone to high school in Honduras. She'd have done better. She would be happy to come back. Yeah, she would. She would join the caravan. That's exactly right. This is unbelievable, the damage the fools are doing. There's an old Yiddish proverb in that regard, and I never understood it. I had a sense of it, but I never understood. It is better, what was it? I rather lose to a wise man than win with a fool. It's a great proverb, and now I understand it. Because even if you win with a fool, they remain fools and they do their damage. The left is composed of fools. Some of them are really nice. Some of them, none of them wake up and think, gee, how can I ruin civilization? They just do it. Every day I bring to you another one of these horror, not every day, most days, another horror with regard to this telling children they're not boys or girls. I can't know because I'm not with all of you listening. Does it upset you? We'll be back.
We may thrust them forward into the future, but the course will always be theirs to choose.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
And we're all tired and lonely, hoping to figure this all out.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here, and I have a truth teller on named Bjorn Lomborg. He's been on quite a number of times, made a number of Prager University videos. It's a delight always to have him on. He is a Danish economist, president of the Copenhagen Consensus Center. Almost every time he's on, I learn a little more Danish, and it's one of the great bonuses of having Bjorn Lomborg on. Would you do me a favor and say happy birthday again in Danish?
Tillykke is what it's called. Yeah, now you can say that. Or can you?
I don't think I can, actually. I
think you're fine with happy birthday. We even sing it all the time.
Let me ask you a question.
So.
Yeah, I get that. So I just want to ask you one question about Danish. Did you ever meet an American, that is a Native American, and I don't mean an American Indian, but a person who was born in America for whom Danish was not spoken from childhood, who could speak Danish with an accent so effective you thought he was a Dane?
Yes. I mean, the problem is I knew that he wasn't, but he really, he was a husband of one of my friends, and he was totally Native American, and he just spoke Danish perfectly. We have, this test phrase, and he just passed it flying colors. So, yes, you can do it, but it's not very often. It's a hard language.
No, that's yes, it is. That's why I asked. I love languages. Okay, I'm sorry.
Klap van de molen.
No, that's Dutch. Okay, we should put you in the punishment room, Sean. So, just do me one favor. Tell me the test phrase.
So it's what call it in the flu.
What? Just a drop.
Don't try.
No, Joe. One time, slowly.
What call it the flu?
Okay. All right. I'm gonna work it out. Bjorn Lomborg, I want to tell you something. You really. You are in this unenviable position of just trying to tell the truth and asking the most, I think the most important question one could ever ask about anything: what is the price paid? That is a question absent from our discussions on environmental issues. Bjorn Lomborg has written a piece in the New York Post today. The media got it all wrong on the new U.S. climate report. Your piece is both about the media and about the climate report equally. So I'm going to go through it with you. So let's begin here. You quote the UN report, the IPCC report, as saying, or is this the U.S. report, which that drought statistics over the entire contiguous U.S. have declined? Is that from?
That's the U.S. Assessment report.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is even better. My friends, how many of you watching the news or listening to the news or reading the news knew that this American report, this bombshell, so to speak, said drought statistics over the entire contiguous U.S. have declined? You bring that out in your article. Why don't you comment on it?
Well, it's simply a question of saying, and as you just pointed out, a lot of people will look at any meteorological event and say, see, global warming. And, so when there's a drought or if there's a wildfire or a hurricane, you'll say, see, this is the kind of thing that happens with global warming. Now, there is some underlying truth to this in the long run. But what you also need to remember is that if you actually look at the data, and that's what both the UN climate assessment has done and what the UN climate panel has done, if you look at the actual data, much of it has gotten less bad, not more bad. And so, for instance, on droughts have generally in the U.S., not everywhere and not all the time, but generally gotten less harmful. And that's why they say, look, drought statistics of the entire contiguous U.S. have declined, but also that they reaffirm, the stuff that we know. They say the Dust Bowl era of the 1930s remained the benchmark drought. That was when it was really, really bad. So absolutely, let's make sure that we get the data right. Let's make sure that we worry rightly, but let's not talk this up in a way that actually suggests, oh, my God, there's more and more drought. That's not helpful.
So whom do you indict here, the media or the makers of the report?
So, look, the report is actually pretty good.
Okay, hold on. Forgive me, Bjorn. Hold on one moment. Hold on. I shouldn't have posed the question, and I have to take a break. Bjorn will be right back. Forgive me. But the only reason we have this reporting in America, not Europe, is because we have private radio, and that means ads. I just want all of you to know that, too. Okay? It's very important you know that. There's no talk radio in Europe like we have here, and it's a big part of the reason Europe thinks in one direction. All right, Relief Factor is an awesome product. You know what I believe about it because I take it every day. I'm not going to take a product just because they advertise. I take a product because I believe in it. It's the opposite. I take the product, and therefore I am prepared to endorse it. If you have any aches, like muscle aches, tendon aches, joint aches, do the 3-week quick start. It's only $19.95 because they're certain that within 3 weeks you will know whether it works or not. ReliefFactor.com. Hi, everybody. You've all heard about this apparently unbelievably frightening report coming out of the government about global warming. Bjorn Lomborg, who's just committed to truth, there's no other. Oh, and he's committed to something else, which makes him as admirable as the first accolade. And that is, he cares actually that people be helped. He wants to know what will really help poor people in the world. A question that is never asked by the left, who really, and I'm not putting any words in his mouth. I'm speaking for me right now. They don't care if more Africans die because they don't have any access to electricity, or for that matter, mosquito nets. The report, as he quotes in the piece, and we'll put it up it's already up at DennisPrager.com, his New York Post piece. This is from the report. Drought statistics over the entire contiguous U.S., that's the 48 states, have declined. The Dust Bowl era of the 1930s remains the benchmark drought and extreme heat event. On flooding, I'm reading again from Bjorn Lomborg today, the assessment accepts the IPCC's finding, which, quote, did not attribute changes in flooding to human influence, nor report detectable changes in flooding magnitude, duration, or frequency. And then you write, and then I'm going to go back to the question I posed to you, Bjorn. Even more dramatic was CNN's headline, screaming climate change will shrink U.S. economy by 10%, a figure also repeated on the New York Times front page. So before we get to that one, I asked you, who do you find more at fault here? The report or the reporters?
It's definitely the reporters. The report, if you actually read it, but that's very, very long, that's perhaps 500 pages or so, is pretty boring and, moderate and informative. But that doesn't make for good TV. So clearly there's a tendency to play up the most atrocious sort of claims that you can find. And if you can come out and say, this is all going to cost us, the 10% figure, as you just mentioned, that's much more fun than saying, look, actually, we can't show that there's more flooding or more drought. But, there is some concerns, and we should be aware of this, and maybe we should be thinking a little bit about it. That will get no clicks.
So the New York Times reported what exactly? What is this 10% figure, that climate change will shrink the economy by 10%? And what is your refutation of what the New York Times headlined?
Well, there's a lot of things wrong with this. Remember, the New York Times didn't actually make it quite as bad as CNN did. But the shrink the U.S. GDP, first of all, is just wrong. By the end of the century, which is what we're talking about with climate change, the estimate says that the average American will at least be 3 times richer than he or she is today. So we're not talking about shrinking the U.S. GDP. We're talking about a dramatically increased 300% larger GDP that will then not be quite as large because of this 10% reduction. So, yes, there is a problem, but it's not the way that it's being portrayed. But that's only a very small part of it. The other thing is this 10% is almost entirely made up. So let me just walk you through a number of the ways that it's made up. First of all, it assumes that temperatures will rise 14 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of the century.
Wait. Excuse me. Does the report says that?
No. The way to get to the 10% GDP loss assumes that you have to get to 14 degrees Fahrenheit. The report is very careful to not make any such claim, but it was just irresistible because you could read all the way out to 14 degrees Fahrenheit and then say, 10%. And that was what both New York Times and CNN and many, many others did. There is no reason why you should believe that you would get 14 degrees Fahrenheit. Even in the worst case scenarios, the U.S. report estimates that we will see less than 9 degrees Fahrenheit. At that level, it will be 5% reduction, not 10%. So, there it's already off by a factor of 2. So that's the first mistake. They basically assume that the world...
Where did they get the 14-degree number from?
They just look. You can sort of see why this works for a journalist. There is a graph in the report. It's very, very far into the back of the report, and it has out of the x-axis, the horizontal axis, it just goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 15 degrees Fahrenheit. These are some eggheads who put this together. And what happens is, if you go all the way to 14 degrees, you get 10% GDP reduction. So somebody just said, oh, that's a nice round number. Let's go with that, irrespective of whether that's actually even remotely plausible.
Or irrespective of the fact that the report doesn't claim it.
Exactly. And look, academically...
And by the way, forgive me, I just want my listeners to... I want to get this clear for me and my listeners, that the 10% or 5% reduction in GDP is of the 300% increase.
Yes.
So
that's exactly right.
Okay, so
that's why we need to make sure we'll still be much, much richer. We will be slightly less, much, much richer by the end of the century.
It's painful.
It kind of is. And it's not the only thing, because there's also another thing. Where does the 5%, that you might be able to say that it would be at the worst case scenario? Is the worst case scenario probable, or is it even plausible? More and more people, and there's a number of new reports and peer-reviewed papers coming out and saying this worst case scenario is just simply not credible.
Oh, good. Tell us where that's from. We're going to come back. Bjorn Lomborg's piece in the New York Post is up at DennisPrager.com.
You should see what a lovely, lovely world is to be.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here. Bjorn Lomborg of Denmark and America, Danish economist, president of the Copenhagen Consensus Center, and a major voice in simple, in the best sense, simple, as Einstein said, things should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. He asks the big questions about global warming and the costs and so on. I have a question for you, because we don't have a lot of time, Bjorn. Do you go on MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS, any of these?
I can't. I use the Google aggregator. I'm sorry. I don't have time to go to individual sites.
No. Do you go on TV? Are you a guest on their shows?
Okay. Sorry. Of course, if I can, but it's very clear that a lot of them are not all that pleased with the points that I make, which is that some of the things they care a lot about are not particularly effective or useful ways to try to help the world and humanity.
So you are known for never denying that the Earth is getting warmer, so they can't even call you a denier.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who will call you a denier if you don't believe exactly in their policy solutions. Remember, I totally accept that global warming is real. I simply point out that many of the policies that we do right now are actually more costly than the benefits they derive. And I'm not alone in that. The new Nobel laureate who got the 2018 Nobel laureate prize, William Nordhaus from Yale University, he's actually pointed out that if we're not careful, we may very well end up wasting at least $50 trillion on overpaying for bad policies compared to what we'll save on doing less damage.
You wonder if the Nobel Committee, which gave the IPCC a Nobel Prize, you wonder if they have read his work.
Oh, they have. It's two different. The IPCC got it from the Peace Prize, which is
I know right.
There's
another. You're right.
Whereas
right.
the other guy was he's done his homework.
All right. Well, you do your homework. By the way, right now, are you in the U.S. or Denmark or somewhere else?
I'm in Sweden right now, but I'm going to Ghana in just 2 days. We're doing another project there.
You know, it's funny. I said, I'll bet you he's in Ghana. I can't believe it. It's like I
There you go.
Yeah, we were there. We had a great time. Anyway, we've never met. It's amazing. I feel like I know you, and we never met. I really hope to rectify that. Thank you, my friend. His piece is up at DennisPrager.com. It is now time to go to my website. Please donate to the Salvation Army. It's Christmas time. Thank you.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here. One of the great themes that I have talked about is the decreasing amount of marriage in the United States, the decreasing number of children born in the West. There are countries that are going out of business. Do you realize that? Within 100 years, I don't know if there will be what there will be in terms of a Germany or a Spain. Or a Belgium, as you write in my guest I'm looking at. I have a distinguished guest. I happen to know the man. So what do they call it when you have to give full disclosure? I like him. I don't know. What am I supposed to say? I know him, and I like him. But there are a lot of people I know and like who don't come on the show. By the way, there are even people I don't like who come on the show. But nevertheless, I wanted to mention that because he is a pediatrician in practice in Santa Monica, California, where nobody has babies. So now he's only seeing people from other parts of Southern California. Actually, I want to talk to you about Santa Monica. It'll be an interesting thing. Dr. Bob Hamilton, Robert Hamilton, MD, pediatrician for more than 30 years, founder of Pacific Ocean Pediatrics in Santa Monica. And you have gone on 30 medical missions. I didn't know that. 30. Wow. I know you go to Africa and Central America because I told you I wanted to go on one of them with you. We'll still work that out. I could broadcast from there. Was it Gabon, right?
The Gambia.
The Gambia. Oh, not Gabon. Okay.
No.
The Gambia.
The Gambia.
By the way, is it called the Gambia?
It's a funny thing. Like the Netherlands is called the Netherlands, and the Gambia is called the Gambia. There's a river called
I did not know that.
The Gambian River. But just Gambian River. But yes, it is the Gambia, which confuses the heck out of everybody.
Yeah, I'm one of them. Dr. Hamilton has written a book which has really gone, I'll bet you didn't expect it to be as popular as it is. It's really successful.
We're working on it, and it came out 3 months ago, actually, almost to the day.
And it's called 7 Secrets of the Newborn, Secrets and Happy Surprises of the First Year. And it's published by St. Martin's Press. And the reason I mention it, because a lot of people send me books they would like to come on, totally understandably. And I respect anyone who's written a book, whether they publish it themselves or they have an established publisher. But having an established publisher says to me that somebody thought it worthwhile to invest in this person's book. That's the difference between that and a self-published book. So I want all authors to understand why we have a sort of rule here that we have books published by actual publishers, because then we know it has met certain criteria. Anyway, 7 Secrets of the Newborn. You have a piece in the Los Angeles Times. God said, "Be fruitful and multiply." Robert C. Hamilton. This just came out September 12th, and it is about your observations in comparing and contrasting Belgium and Israel in terms of fertility. Let's talk, before we get to the 7 Secrets of the Newborn. Is that the title? Yeah, 7 Secrets of the Newborn, which is up at DennisPrager.com, by the way. The book is up at our website. To what do you attribute the decline in fertility in the West?
You know, there's a lot of factors, but I think that probably when you think about what has gone on the last several years, I think we're beginning to lose our vision for life. Something happened after World War II during the 50s and 60s and 70s. Certainly the feminist revolution, if you will, was a part of that. But in terms of that idea of the 50s. We had the 50s, and moms were at home, and there was this idea that life was kind of a wonderful time in American life in some ways. A lot of people turned around and said, we don't want that anymore. And I think that changed a lot of what happened with women, because women are the ones who bear children. And if you look at the studies, women who are going into careers, who are going to college, which by the way is a good thing. My wife and I have 4 children. We've encouraged; they've all gone to college, and 4 daughters, 6 children, I should clarify. But our 4 daughters, we have all gone to college. But as a result of that, what is happening is that women are putting off that goal, which was really very evident when I was a kid, of having children. So that's a big part of it.
When you see patients, the ones having children in Santa Monica, California, I know well, not only being a resident of Southern California, but I conducted the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra and got quite immersed in the political life of your city. So your city is known as quite left. And I associate left with not having babies. In fact, not even getting married in many instances. Is that a fair stereotype?
Here's the thing. I deal with people who have children. So by definition, I'm dealing with a kind of a subpopulation of my community, Santa Monica.
Okay, good. So that in fact raises the question I wanted to ask. Assuming that a fair number of the women whom you see who are having children are on the left, why are they having children?
I think that this concept of having children, this goal, this kind of lifetime hope, is resident in people in general, even whether you're on the left or the right. Definitely, there are people who are real true ideologues who say we want no children, we don't want to populate the world anymore, and so they're not having children. They're relatively rare, but what I do find that residue of wanting a child is something which is deeply inherent to human beings. It's in our DNA. It really is in the genetic code. So people, even whether you're on the left or the right or whatever, they want children. However, what I find is that people who do tend toward more leftist ideology, and I don't know how everybody in my office stands, they tend to have 1, maybe 2 children. The concept of overpopulating, even though that is really wrong, as you mentioned in your opening statement here, we actually have a big issue in Western world right now with populations actually decreasing. But anyway, they rarely go beyond 2. People who are more religious, people who have who tend to be a little bit on the righter side of the spectrum, who I know that to be, they have larger families. And I think that to a degree, religion is a big part of it. We see that in Israel, which is if you look at the piece I did for the Wall Street Journal there, the actual...
Oh, this is the Wall Street... I thought this was the LA Times.
No, that's the Wall Street Journal.
Oh, okay, fine. I was wondering why the LA Times would publish you. As soon as I saw the word God in the headline, I just assumed, what? The LA Times is publishing that? Or is it the Wall Street Journal? Okay.
I would love to be published in the LA Times, believe me. But anyway, if you look at that article and dissect it, it depends on how religious you are, how many children you actually bear. The conservative, what they call the Haredi population in Israel, are having 6.9 children per woman, which is an astronomical number, really.
And it's very hard to have 9/10 of a child. I mean, that's an achievement in and of itself. I'm speaking to Dr. Robert Hamilton. He's a pediatrician in Santa Monica. He's written this terrific book, 7 Secrets of the Newborn. Secrets and Happy Surprises of the First Year. You have a profession that I have to believe is one of the handful, and just I don't. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. I don't care. You know that. You've heard me speak, but it would seem to me you have one of the few professions that is fairly happy every day. Is that right?
That's very true. I tell people that in terms, if you have to go out and get a job, I've got the best job in the world. I get to get up in the morning and get to go to hospitals and look at babies who were born the night before. I pick them up, I hold them, I show them to their mom and dad. Their parents are ebullient. They're so delighted, and it's really a happy time of life. I remember back when we were having children, what a joy and what an incredible sense of hope and purpose you have when you have a child. So I'm dealing with young people who are in that phase of their life when they're having children, and I get to listen. I get to watch them grow up. I kind of shepherd them, if you will, through their early childhood years, and junior high school. I eventually have to kick them out of the practice when they get taller than me and bigger than me and are going to college. But I get to go through that whole process with families, and it's a real tremendous joy.
Yeah, I remember my pediatrician bonded with my kids. I mean, it's a big deal. 7 Secrets of the Newborn, Dr. Robert Hamilton, 1-8-PRAGER-776. Is it, let's see, Hillsdale time? Is that right? Thank you. On behalf of the show, on behalf of the U.S., on behalf of Hillsdale. My guest has written a remarkable book, 7 Secrets of the Newborn. He's a pediatrician in practice for well over 5 years now.
Plus 25, plus.
Yeah. Yeah. It simply means he knows what he's doing. His patients love him for good reason. And he has written this book now, which is a bestseller, actually, 7 Secrets of the Newborn. Secrets and Happy Surprises of the First Year, up at DennisPrager.com. So when I speak to young people, it is apparent that an inversion of all of history has taken place. Children are now regarded by vast numbers of Americans as impediments to happiness.
That is very true. And it is true because they don't know. They've been told that children bring a lot of work. If you talk to any of my young parents, they'll tell you, yes, we're up all night. We do a lot. We have diapers, we have food, we have to change them, this and do that. We take them here, and they get sick. There are a lot of things. But interestingly enough, Dennis, in preparation for this interview, yesterday I was I was interviewing my patients, and I held up their child and said, "What has this child brought to your life?" And some of them, with tears in their eyes, said, number one was joy. Number two, just laughter and happiness. Another guy said purpose. Another woman said everything. I'm not sure what she meant by everything, but everything. And so when you actually begin to have children, when they actually come into your life and you realize that, of course, their work, of course, we all know that. But when you begin to realize the blessing and the joy and the delight and how children light up virtually every room that they walk into, they begin to kind of go, wow, we didn't know this. I've had women really, truly in their mid-30s have their first child, which is becoming more and more common. And they come into my office, and look, I talk to my patients. They know who I am and what I'm up to, and I get to know them. And I say, tell me about this. You're 35, and some of them literally look at me and say, why didn't anybody tell me? Why was I mistaken about children and the blessing and how much they change your life in a good way, And children really do, they mature us. They take us out of ourself, and if anything, and this is a good thing too, they bring us into the next generation. They thrust us. By definition, we are, as a father, I'm concerned about 20 years from now, what will be happening.
Yep, that's a very good point. You think in that way. Do you know young women who are opting not to have children, or the that obviously they're not going to come to your practice, but do you know them at all in life?
I do. There are a couple of them. Some of them, sadly, have, the way life has gone. They've been married and divorced or whatever, and they've kind of gone beyond their years where they can have children, and they've come to that point where they said, I don't want children. Okay. Well, and there aren't too many that I'm aware of that actively in their early 20s, mid-20s, unless some kind of terrible dysfunction has happened in the family, say, I never want to have children. I know they're out there because I read like you read, but I don't run into them very often.
Dr. Bob, I was with a woman. I announced this on the radio this week. I met a woman just recently at a I'll just say a certain get-together. So I frequently ask young women, in fact, I'll ask them, how old are you? So she turns out she was 34. And I asked her, are you married? No. And do you want to get married? And then she gave the answer that most troubles me, and that is, if somebody comes around, that'll be fine. But I'm preoccupied with my career, her career being acting, which is particularly dangerous because very few people ever make it in acting, just the nature of the beast, as it were. But the reason I'm telling you this is what really fascinated me is the woman goes to church every Sunday. And I asked on the air, maybe you're a churchgoer, so tell me, are Christian churches not advocating marriage? Is it an unspoken issue?
Certainly in our church, we talk about marriage all the time. We have a lot of young people. We have a lot of children in our congregation. So in our congregation, no, we do talk about marriage. For whatever reason, though, there are plenty of congregations, and they can be conservative and more liberal in their theology, who are not really getting up there and saying we need to have children. We even need to get married. Let's start with that. Let's start with that. Yeah, exactly. It isn't happening. And I'll tell you what it is. It represents really we're acclimatizing ourselves to the culture. And that is happening in churches throughout the country. We kind of look at the culture as kind of leading the church rather than the church leading the culture.
Today, if you meet a woman who's 25, not 20, 25, married and has a child, she is the outlier.
She would be the outlier.
Yes. This is brand new in American history.
It really is, and definitely in urban America. In rural America, it's still happening. It happens all the time. When I have those kind of people, by the way, I have a handful in my practice who are relatively young mothers. I look at them and I ask them, and I say this. I say, where did you get your common sense? Because I want to know what is the motive. What is it about them?
That is a great question. Where did you get your common sense? and then they say, "Oh, listen to the Dennis Prager show," and he goes, "Really? Me too."
I listen to Pragertopia every night.
Yes. All right. Back in a moment. The book, 7 Secrets of the Newborn. 1-8-PRAGER-776. All right. Speaking to a thoughtful and highly acclaimed pediatrician, Dr. Robert Hamilton, pediatrician in Santa Monica, California. The book is done really well, and it could really touch your life. 7 Secrets of the Newborn, Secrets and Happy Surprises of the First Year. Give me a happy surprise. Tell me one. I've had 1-year-olds. What's a happy surprise?
Well, one great happy surprise I found as I researched the book was at the point of conception, there's a flash of light. And so when the ovum and the sperm actually unite, and it usually happens in the fallopian tube, there's actually an influx of calcium ions, into that zygote, and there is an exit of zinc ions, and that zinc exit causes there to be literally a spark. There's a little flash of light that happens.
That's not a surprise. Everybody listening knew that. Give me a break. Zinc ions, you know how often Sean mentions that? In fact, instead of saying, would you turn the light on, he said, just a little zinc ion, Dennis.
So, when you think about this has been going on, Dennis, for the millennium. And, I think about this. I think this is like a little thing that God has looked at and said, let there be light, let there be life. And it kind of like one of those things that you kind of go, wow, this has been going on forever. That flash of light, that kind of annunciation, if you will, of new life.
So let me ask you about the first year. How, I'm not asking a cliche question. I want to know the answer. How much of us is formed in the first year?
Well, that's a great question. I would say this. When you think about the first year of life, you think about a newborn baby. They're kind of this highly dependent little lump of humanness. Very sophisticated, by the way. You don't know it, but when you actually look at them every day, you realize that they're pretty together. And you think about a 1-year-old child. What are they doing? Well, a 1-year-old child is walking. They're intensely curious. They're beginning to babble. They're talking maybe a word or two, and they're relatively coordinated with their hands. They can actually feed themselves. And you think about the progression from that newborn infant who is just laying there, hardly able to lift up their head, and a 1-year-old child. It is an incredible, incredible year in terms of development. Now, brain-wise, what is happening in the brain is literally this electrical storm. The synapses are forming between the neurons. By the way, we're born with about 100 billion neurons in our brain. That is equal to the stars in the Milky Way. This is an astounding number. And at points along the in utero development, we're making 250,000 neurons every minute. These are amazing numbers.
Really? That is amazing.
Amazing numbers. And I mean, you think about that. We have to realize that zygote. We just talked about that uniting of the ovum and the sperm together. That zygote in 9 months is going to be a breathing, living little baby who's crying for food and suckling on the mother and, pushing up. They have, relatively good strength, even as a newborn.
What's your theory? At what age do they know that they are they and not an extension of their mother, let's say?
I think that's probably around 3 months of age.
Is that already?
It really is. I mean, I have this little, I actually, if you read my book, I actually say that 3 months is my favorite age. And people say, why is that? And because it's kind of, what about, 10 years of age, 11, 3 months? I'll tell you why. They're finally over that fussy period where they're going, they're groaning and moaning all the time. And I actually think, this is just me making this up, I think by 3 months of age, they've forgiven their mother for giving them birth. I kind of don't
That's
think...
adorable. That is truly adorable.
I think they're rebelling for the first 3 months
right.
of their life.
That's my theory. The kid comes out of the womb. I didn't want to leave. I didn't ask to be conceived.
Right.
Once conceived, I didn't ask to be exited.
That's
right.
Yeah, it really is true. At about 3 months of age, they finally have, decided that they're part of the human race, and they're willing to kind of go with it, and they become, much more delightful. Mothers for their part are feeling a little bit better about themselves. They're beginning to get a little sleep, and their weight is going down. A lot of factors. So anyway, that is my favorite age. 3
months. Well, if it's a pediatrician's favorite age, then it's a big deal. Dr. Robert Hamilton, his book is Seven Secrets of the Newborn. Secrets and Happy Surprises of the First Year. 1-8-PRAGER-776.
You've got a strange effect on me.
Hello, everybody. Dennis Prager here, having a ball with Dr. Robert Hamilton. Book 7 Secrets of the Newborn, which, even if you don't have a newborn in the house, it's just illuminating. And he has an infectious way of delivering his thinking. He has been a pediatrician since the Ulysses Grant era, and so he really does have a lot of expertise. I mean, that's a serious period of time. He has 11 great-great-grandchildren. He's actually one of the younger-looking, experienced pediatricians that you'll ever meet. The book, again, 7 Secrets of the Newborn. So we're talking about parents as well as kids here. So back to the parents. What's your take? And I know you want to be careful because obviously these are patients or might be patients. So without even referencing, and of course not referencing any of your patients, do you think it is legitimate to be concerned about what is called the helicopter parent?
This is a new phenomenon, and the helicopter parent, by definition, is that parent who is literally hovering over their child 24/7,
right?
Arranging their schedule, making sure they're getting to their French classes and their ballet and their soccer and their karate, and it goes on and on. And children don't have a break. And that's kind of a phenomenon of our wealth, of the fact that they can do that, number one, and also as a function of the fact that the mothers don't have a lot of children. They have one child.
Oh, what a great point. I hate it when I didn't think of a great point.
And I tell people, if you really want to get over your anxiety, have about 5 more children.
That's right, of course.
You don't have time to be anxious.
That is such a... it's so... The moment you said it, I realized that. You can't be a helicopter over 5 kids.
I actually think
you need 5 helicopters.
You're right. Anyway, so that's what I tell people. That, the helicopter phenomenon is you kind of have too much time on your hands.
I want to say for the record, my parents raised me as if they had 12 kids. My parents were helicopter parents in the sense that the helicopter was always being repaired. And I thank God for it.
Thank God for that.
Yes,
absolutely.
I learned to be independent.
Yes, that's exactly right.
You have a thing in here about strangers. I just want to say, my first son, I was the director of a retreat center, so 1,000 people would come up on the weekends. So my son was touched in his first year by about 1,000 people. I mean that sincerely. Wow. Never got sick.
Wow.
He probably developed antibodies.
He did.
I mean, and what does he do now? He's a professional fundraiser because he deals so well with people. That people hide kids from strangers or tell them, "Oh, don't talk to strangers." It is hurting the child. I mean, I'm editorializing. You're the doctor. Go ahead.
Well, if you're referring to stranger anxiety, I mean, young children love people. They really do. But there is a funny thing that happens when children, the second half of their first year, they have this thing called stranger anxiety. So people who are not their mom and their dad or people very close to them, they have a reaction to them, which is usually crying and screaming and wanting to get away from them. And this is kind of embarrassing for the parents because they go, "Oh, he's such a good baby," but every time Grandma, who's from Florida, shows up, he has a complete fit when Grandma tries to hold him, which is embarrassing for the family. And of course, Grandma feels kind of bad about that too.
I just want to say, from the Prager family lore, you will like this. You just reminded me. I don't think I ever mentioned this on the radio. There would have never been a reason to. My older brother, almost 6 years older than I, so this precedes my birth. But it is said that whenever our beloved Aunt Buddy came, he threw up. I can't tell you how sad I felt for Aunt Buddy hearing this. This is what you just said.
They literally have a almost a out of body experience, and they're terrified, they're screaming, and they do not want to be held by Aunt.
Right. To show you how weird I am, I preferred strangers. I had family anxiety. I loved strangers. What you must see in the course of it's very funny. I was going to say you could write a book. I realized, by golly, he did. 7 Secrets of the. Why did you title it Secrets?
I think that people are, I mean, look, I'm trying to sell books, Dennis. And so I think that people are intrigued by the word secret. They kind of go, well, what could it be? And maybe they'll be apt to pick up this book.
I see.
So it's a marketing technique.
So it's really insights, 7 insights.
Okay, you can put it that way. You won't sell any books, but you can put it that way.
Right. No. I'm simply defining it for the audience. What it really is 7 insights.
You're correct, Dennis.
Yeah.
You're correct.
No, I think that's great.
I'll change the title.
No, don't change the title. I think it's a great title, but I love your honesty. It just is better. I agree with you. We all know the importance of titles. I think we have a former patient of yours here who's now a 42-year-old man. Christian in Lakewood, California. Hi.
Hello, Dennis. First of all, you guys are comedy gold. It's wonderful. Dr. Hamilton, I can't believe it. I ran into one of your wonderful videos of the hold for newborns when you put that out in 2015, and I was just amazed how wonderful you're doing and the work you're doing in Africa. And myself and my siblings, Claudia and Benjamin, were his patients, and for the life of me, I don't understand why I'm not bringing my 5 and 4-year-old to his practice, because he's the most wonderful, just the most warm and wonderful man I think I can remember.
He wondered that too. He said to me during a break, there was this guy Christian living in Lakewood, doesn't bring his kids.
Thank you. You're very kind, Christian. I thank you for your kind words.
The Dennis Prager Show.
Hi, my friends. Final segment here with Dr. Robert Hamilton, 7 Secrets of the Newborn. And he's a good man and a good doctor and a good writer. What is the largest family that, I would think in Santa Monica it's pretty rare to have more than 2. So have you had anything more than 6?
We have. I've had one, and this is in my entire career, of 9.
That was it.
And 9. Now, mind you, they were dear friends of ours, actually, become dear friends over time, because people who have 6 children don't have any friends other than people who have, 6 or more people, because nobody wants to invite them to their home. But anyway, they were a family. They began with 3. They had triplets right out of the gate. Boom. And
wait,
so
were they on some fertility medicine?
No, this was
that's amazing.
Just a natural
3.
Natural 3. So this family had 3, so they were kind of ahead of everybody right from the very beginning,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
And then they had a set of twins, and then then you're up to 5. Then they had 4 of the singletons. All of them amazing young kids, but that's pretty rare. I have another. Our pastor has 8 children. And I have a couple other family friends who have 7, 6. But look, the majority of people in Santa Monica, like I say, have like 2.
Yes, I would understand.
Yeah.
Anyway, folks, the book, 7 Secrets of the Newborn, it is up at DennisPrager.com. More power to you, Robert Hamilton. You deserve a great deal of success with the book. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
My friends, if you'd like to express goodness, and in light of all the goodness in this past hour, you could do so by making a donation to the Salvation Army. This is Christmas time. I don't spend a lot of time making these appeals because I have found that I don't have to with my audience. So please go there now to my website, DennisPrager.com, and click on the banner for the Salvation Army. You will be happy you did. I will see you tomorrow.